Welcome back to English 102, Composition 102. Today we come to the third and final video on effective strategies for writing an introductory paragraph. Now that you have introduced your thesis with an effective attention getter in the form of a question, a graphic fact, a definition, a quote, or a scene setter, and now that you have succinctly and emphatically stated your thesis, it only remains to preview the 2 or 3 or 4 criteria of analysis by which you will develop that thesis. By analysis, we simply mean the process of breaking a subject down into its component parts. If the thesis statement tells the reader in one sentence what you are going to argue, then the criteria of analysis tell the reader how you are going to develop that thesis. Out of this preview of the criteria analysis flows the whole organization and arrangement of your paper. And out of that organization and arrangement will flow a sense of coherence, clarity, and comprehension. These are all 3 very worthwhile goals to strive for in your writing, and 3 very worthwhile virtues to have in your writing. So this criteria of analysis sentence structures your whole paper, provides the skeleton, if you will, for your argument. Let's look at an example. Suppose the question before us is, should women be allowed in combat? And let's suppose you write your thesis in the form of, although some people think A, I believe B. You might write this: although many people believe women should not be allowed in combat, I believe that a battlefield is no place for a woman. It only remains now to preview several criteria of analysis for developing that thesis. So, for example, you might settle on the criteria of financial reasons, social reasons, and military reasons to support your thesis. And you could write a sentence previewing those 3 criteria as follows. After documenting the financial and social pitfalls of women in combat, I will analyze the military implication of a co-ed battlefield. These 3 or 4 or 5 criteria of development, financial, social, and military, preview the essay's arrangement, as I said, providing the reader with a rhetorical roadmap for negotiating the complex terrain of your argument. As with the attention getter and thesis statement, there are several simple yet practical strategies to use when previewing your criteria development. You can simply mention them in the order in which you will write about them, beginning with the weakest and ending with the strongest. If using this rhetorical structure, you can use a simple series of transitional words to introduce each criteria: first, second, and third. Another series of useful transitional phrases with which to introduce your criteria of development is the following. After examining A, I will analyze B before developing the relevance of C. You can also group your criteria with single transitions for each group as follows. After analyzing the significance of A and B, I will develop the relevance of C and D. Say, for example, you were writing a paper analyzing a restaurant, and your 4 criteria of analysis were its location, its atmosphere, the quality of the food, and the quality of the service. You might begin, for example, with the following. After analyzing the atmosphere and the location of the restaurant, I will assess the quality of the food and the service. Here's another example for women in combat. Before analyzing the importance of economic factors, I will assess the significance of constitutional and military arguments. Suppose you're writing a paper on Shakespeare's Titus Andronicus, and you might write the following to preview your criteria of analysis. First, I will analyze Shakespeare's use of imagery. Second, I will develop the significance of his subversive view of monarchy. And finally, I will assess the extent to which the plot is informed by the conventions of the Elizabethan revenge tragedy. So again, those transitions, first, second, and finally, are effective means for stating your criteria of analysis with which you will develop your thesis statement. Now, what I would like you to do is in your journal make an entry in which you list several criteria of analysis for developing your thesis related to the term paper. Limit these to the 3 or 4 most useful. Rank them in reverse order from weakest to strongest, and then craft a sentence or two previewing these criteria using the rhetorical strategies modeled in this section. For practice, you can also take a topic like a favorite movie and break it down into 3 or 4 subheads: acting, directing, cinematography, editing, etc. And practice writing a sentence using the transitions first, second, third, and fourth, or after assessing A and B, I will analyze C and D. This will give you the hands-on practice for writing an effective sentence previewing your criteria of analysis. It only remains now to put the pieces of this introduction together: the attention getter, the thesis statement, and the criteria of analysis. So what I'd like you to do is just in your journal make an entry in which you craft an introductory paragraph using an effective attention getter to introduce your thesis, then succinctly and stating your thesis statement, and finally using several criteria of analysis to preview how you will develop it. Choose the topic you're going to write your term paper on to make this entry. Again, to review what we've talked about in these last 3 videos on strategies for writing effective paragraphs, the purpose of the attention getter, of the introduction, is to arouse the reader's interest with an effective combination of attention getters using your central research question, a quote, a key definition, a graphic fact, or a scene setter. Having done that, your next goal is to succinctly and emphatically state a thesis, which is an opinion that promises an analysis. And finally, to preview the criteria of analysis by which this thesis will be developed. Having aroused the reader's interest, stated what you will argue and how you will argue it, it now only remains to prove or develop your argument. In the next video, we will talk about 5 effective strategies for concretely developing your thesis. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.